What'd you
Let me
learn?
add one thing first, real quick, because I don't think you need to forgive people if you never get offended. If you don't ever take things personally, you never get offended by people, and you love unconditionally, right? Forgiveness is not even something that ever enters into you because you don't need it. People don't talk about that, you know? And so I always want to make sure that, and then the other thing about the stars shining bright, if you're full of yourself, you're never empty. So it's okay to be full of yourself if you have an unconditional love and want to elevate people. See, I have my hat says thrust is a must, right? Thrust is not something that you can do all the time, or it's not thrust. That's a pace, right? So I think it's important for people to understand in life and business, you got to be able to thrust when you need to, and also pull back and be aware that it's okay. It's okay to stop and slow down sometimes. Regroup so you can go again. Nobody can go like hard all the time. Yep. Right?
Good morning, winners. This is Anthony Glenn checking in with the Sitrep podcast where we help you win in real estate. And today's guest, we got brother C-Rock, winning C-Rock.
Let's go.
What's happening, man?
What's happening, man?
It's good
Great to see you,
bro.
man. Great to see you.
Man.
Thanks for having me.
Outstanding, bro. I want to jump right into this because I got so many questions to ask you. First and foremost, congratulations on making over 1 million subscribers to your Instagram.
Thank you.
And then also you're doing a lot of great things in the mortgage industry and on Clubhouse. I have a couple of questions for you. For one, where are you from?
Well, I live in Maryland on the East Coast. Yeah, so I grew up outside of Philly. And I've been in Maryland since college. I played football at Salisbury University, Division III school. Met my wife, and we ended up at the beach in Maryland. Yeah, so yeah.
That's cool, man. And so how did you build this empire? Like what did you start with first? I know you started, you have a successful mortgage company, and that's transitioning into doing some podcast stuff. Where is C-Rock going next?
So I started in real estate, like a real estate agent at first, right? And just decided that I wanted to get out of the in-home sales business that I was in for 9 years. I cut my teeth on in-home sales, selling water treatment systems. You know our buddy Kevin
Yeah.
Kevin Waterboy?
Yeah.
I did the same thing as he did for 7 years. And I didn't know him then. And then I got into real estate, crushed it, but I didn't like showing people houses. That wasn't me.
Yeah.
So my buddies were making money in the mortgage business. And I'm like, guys, you got to let me in on this. And they're like, no. Because I was referring them business all the time. And eventually I just leaned into it and told them I'm coming anyway. And since 2006 is when I got into mortgage space. Started out as a loan officer and then built my way up to management and then having branches and built 7 branches. We were up to 50 some employees at one point at our peak. And then in 2017, I had this feeling. I woke up one morning and I just wasn't fulfilled, man. I made millions in the mortgage space, but I just wasn't fulfilled. I just was like, there's got to be more to this. And I started realizing that I wasn't playing a big enough game. That's what it basically came down to. Because I realized that when you have potential to do amazing things, you'll feel like caged up if you're not going after it. You'll feel like you just get this anxiety feeling. And I realized it, and thank God I was able to acknowledge it and do something about it, right? So I made a decision at that time that I was going to stop just focusing on my little markets that I was in and go big. And I read the 10X rule. And Grant Cardone, I didn't really know who he was then. My brother read the book and he said, you got to read this. This guy sounds like you. And I'm like, man, I'll read the book, whatever. So I started reading it and I was like, wow, it's explaining everything. It made me realize that I was like this animal and I was caged up.
Yep.
And no wonder I was feeling this way. So when I just made a decision, and then when I made the decision, I was like, how big should I take this thing? And I decided to go global, like get known globally.
Right.
And if there's aliens, which this is back in 2017, there was still talk about UFOs and stuff. I'm like, if there's aliens, let the aliens know who C-Rock is, right? Yeah. And that's when it started. And I just didn't want to identify just as a mortgage guy anymore. I wanted to be C-Rock, and then I do a lot of things.
Now, do you remember how we met?
On Clubhouse at some point.
Yes.
But I don't remember specifically.
Okay, I'll tell you a story. So C-Rock was in the room, and somebody said, you don't know who this guy is? And I'm like, no, I really don't know him. So I started listening to him in different rooms. And then I found out that he liked hip hop. So that's how really? I actually met you. Yeah. Okay. And then I found out, I heard your story about your mortgage company and how you were pretty much redesigning everything because of the hit. And I resonate with that because, I think leaders are supposed to be resolute. So that's when I started to, follow you around and listen, because I like hooking up with the right people over the most people, too, right?
Yeah, well, one thing about this isn't my first time I had to restructure, right? We were a call center. We used to call leads, like Lower My Bills leads, Lending Tree leads, in a cube farm. That's where we started, like a boiler room. And then eventually it was all refinances. Eventually, we're like, we can't keep doing this because rates fluctuate. We need to get into purchase business.
Right.
So we made that, and that was tough. That was probably harder than this time. And we did it. And then we grew and we expanded out. And the other thing about this was being able to scale a business, right? A lot of people think scaling's up. It's not. Scaling is up and down to remain profitable and sometimes just to survive so that you can explode. And being able to roll through the cycles of things with your income, with your net worth, and understand that it's the long game, it's not the short game, and don't get so hung up on that. That's what matters to me, and I realized that over the time in business that you need to make sure you can scale up and down. And so that's what I was talking about with that, yeah.
And that's good because scaling is important with any business. And guys, what scaling is essentially is eliminating waste, right, and getting more profitability as you grow. So, man, also I had an issue within our mortgage company where we were having issues with the follow-up. And then just listening and taking bites from you and different people and Jonathan Bing, the ebbs and flows has kind of helped me in my business. Now, who bought you on Clubhouse?
Joe Vargas, this guy from Las Vegas. He's not around there much anymore. They called him Hustler. And I knew him from interviewing him on a podcast. I knew his wife through Grant and Lena. And he came on my show one time, and then he told me about this Clubhouse thing. And I started seeing it on Instagram. This is back in December 2020, right? Yeah. And I popped on Christmas Day, 2020.
Okay.
And that was on. We were all hooked once we saw it. Like, oh man, this is something. Because see, here's the thing: us like entrepreneurs, like we see something that we know that we can figure out how to like connect with more people more efficiently. You know, Clubhouse is a crazy thing, especially early on. Every room had a title and topics. So to me, it was like shooting fish in a barrel as far as networking goes, because you see those titles and you can go where you want to go. And then when I went in a room, a lot of times I didn't talk. I'd be like a duck sitting on top of the water, my feet going, and nobody could see that, right? Because I was just pounding on people's profiles and DMing them, connecting with them behind the scenes. Yeah. And so I do this thing called a 15 mini. I have 15mini.com. Don't use that, please, because now you don't have to cut this out, but don't use that because it's my calendar. But 15mini.com goes to my 15-minute calendar. So I immediately, when I want to connect with someone, I say, hey, let's have a 15-minute Zoom call. 15mini.com, hit it.
I remember getting that message.
Yeah, and I set it up with everybody, and I must have did 1,000 plus since 2020, no doubt. And I meet people, and I have a structured way I go about the call. I find out about their past, their present, and their future. Mm-hmm. And the future part's the most important because it's their vision. And I'm a future creator and causer for myself and others. And that's one of the most attractive qualities somebody can have is causing, creating futures. And so I lean into that. And then like you and I have talked about what you're doing, what you have going on. You ask the same thing for me. And that allows us to cause and create a future together, whether we do business together or whether we just support each other and root for each other.
And that's a good little nugget right there. I want you guys to clip that. Everybody and everyone knows someone or something that can help you expand in your business. That's a bar right there. So, I did have an opportunity to sit down with you and look at, and one thing that I like about how you do business is that you ask the same question I ask. How can I help you? Right? How can I provide value to this person? Why do you do that?
I mean, I think it naturally comes to me. I feel like I want to help everybody. I just have this thing. Because I grew up around a lot of brokenness, and everybody needed help, but they weren't willing to take it. Mm-hmm. They didn't know they needed help. And so I felt helpless as a kid a lot of times, being around drug addicts, alcoholics, anxiety, depression, suicide. And I just never wanted to quit doing that. So for me, money's never been an issue for me. So money's always came because maybe I had that servant heart. And so I don't really stress over money. I worry about, okay, let me see if I can elevate this person. And if I'm elevating people around me, everything I should be taken care of.
Yeah, naturally you're going to elevate.
And so I guess I just have that view. And I always want to, here's another thing. When I'm having a relationship with someone, I always want them to owe me. Not because I want them to be in debt to me, but I just don't want to ever be in a situation where I'm not giving more than I'm taking. And so it's a principle that I have.
And that is the reason why, and I'll tell you something about the military. We are thoroughly immersed in brotherhood and sisterhood, right? So it's very difficult for me to get with people and then people don't understand the concept of reciprocity. So I was having the same issues too. And what Clubhouse has done is it's bridged the gap for giving me opportunities because I felt like I had plateaued as well, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, I've mastered the art of selling a home. Okay. We've mastered the art of communicating, right? So I needed a challenge. So this whole cycle thing is the same thing, and I think that's why we align. And speaking of challenges, C-Rock and I, we did run. We put some miles in, you know.
Yeah.
You put some miles in, bro. I was surprised. I was very, very impressed. How often do you work out?
Every day. I lift weights and do cardio every day. I don't run every day. I started running now after we ran. I started running on a treadmill again because when the weather's nice, I'm out running all the time. But now I do stairs for cardio or uphill treadmill walk. But I lift every day. And yeah, I mean, we ran and then my legs started getting some blood flow to them and started getting heavier. And I was like, man, we got to slow up a little bit. But I think it's important though. See, I have my hat says thrust is a must, right? Mm-hmm. Thrust is not something that you can do all the time, or it's not thrust. That's a pace, right? So I think it's important for people to understand in life and business, you got to be able to thrust when you need to, and then also pull back and be aware that it's okay. It's okay to stop and slow down sometimes, regroup so you can go again. Nobody can go like hard all the time.
Yep.
Right. So when we were running the other in Vegas that time, a couple weeks ago, I thought to myself, like, you know, there's things like an ego inside of you. It's like, no, I'm not stopping. I'll just drop before I stop. But I don't think that's healthy. And I don't think you can become unstoppable in life if you do it that way. Mm-hmm. So you got to put your ego and pride to the side sometimes and put the mission above it.
And run your own race.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's good too. Run your own race, because I think a lot of people, you know, I think I always need to be around people that are at a higher mental capacity so I can grow, right? But at the same time, guys, finish the damn race. So many people are caught up in trying to compete versus the endurance of business. Now, why is working out a part of your routine, and how does that correlate into being successful in business to you?
Well, there was a time when I got married, I got comfortable and complacent, and I didn't work out all the time. I ate, I was drinking, and just not taking care of myself, and I got chubby. And I put that chubby picture up on Clubhouse sometimes and put it side by side. And it's like, I was like 235. I'm only 5'7", right? And I was 235, 240 in that range. And I looked like I have a fat suit on and everything. And I just was like disgusted with myself at that time. And when you feel that way about yourself, you treat other people that way. The way you treat people is a reflection of how you're feeling about yourself inside, right? And so I just wasn't okay with that. And I just started thinking to myself like, oh, and I went to the gym one time with some buddies, and I used to be in shape. I played football. And I did a pull-up. And then that was it. I couldn't get another one. I couldn't get the second time up. And I'm like, this is terrible. Like, this is embarrassing. Then I would go steps. I'd get out of breath. I'm like, this is unacceptable, man. So I just went on a mission, probably back in, I would say 2014. It seems like yesterday. And I just went on a mission. I started doing CrossFit, lifting again, running, and just leaned into it. And then when the pandemic hit, I committed to working out in my buddy's gym if I had to, because all the gyms were closed. Mm-hmm. And I was going to go through that pandemic and come out like an animal. And I did. And so if you get all the money in the world, you get all the success in the world, you get all the people and relationships around you, it doesn't matter if you can't live. You know what I mean? So I want to take care of that. And that's why I lean into it.
That's good, man. And you talk about a lot your son. What's his name?
Nick.
Yeah. Right? I've heard Nick on Clubhouse a couple of times. What attributes and core values are you instilling into him to set him up for success?
Yeah, I mean, I have core values I live by, and then I also install those in my business. And it's an acronym, VITALS. And we talk about vibes matter and emotions are contagious. So we talk about that. We talk about imagine, using your imagination, encourage an imagination. Mm-hmm. No limits, no lids. Talk about taking 100% responsibility, not blaming people, understanding that you have control to create your life and the outcomes. We also talk about any setbacks that you encounter and you run into that are all rocket fuel. They're all fuel for your future. And then leadership starts with me, understanding that you're a leader. That goes back to the other thing about working out. I want to be a role model. Yep. And if I'm talking to other people trying to help them and I'm out of shape and just fat and not good, like it's fake, man. And I'm not good with that. So I talk to them about leadership starts with me, and then success is the only option. Like you were talking about, finish the mission. Success is the only option. Like we may have a setback. We may not get the results that we want to the speed that we want. But at the end of the day, we complete the cycle because we don't want chaos. So this is what the things I teach him now. It doesn't always come off right. When I'm talking to him, he's like, rolling his eyes and all this.
Yeah.
But then I see him talking to his friends about it. When he's on the team, he's talking to the things and he sounds like me. So I don't care if he doesn't respond well at the initial time. I think all parents need to understand this, right? With your kids, It's what happens after that, right? And that's what I'm seeing with him. So I'm very proud of him. Actually, I don't like to be proud because I think it's selfish. He should be proud of himself. I'm very happy for him.
That's good. That's good. What advice would 21-year-old C-Rock get from C-Rock today?
Man, I said this a lot of times before, but I mean, I think I would have put partying and the girls to the side, like chasing girls, because it takes away your focus. And I would have got my money right. I would have focused on, mentorship and all the stuff I did when I turned 40. All the things that my midlife crisis was like, holy cow, I'm not playing a big enough game and I'm wasting my potential and it's unacceptable. I know I have the ability to, like, man, let me tell you something. I'm 5'7", right? I said this before, but my beingness is like, I could fill up California. Like my spirit, I have no doubt about that. And when it was caged up, so I would tell, and that's what I tell my son, like shine your light and nobody touches it. There's going to be people that come at you because they're jealous or they think that they get threatened by you or whatever the case is, but you shine that light no matter what, and they'll come around. And so that's what I would tell them. Keep the light bright. Don't let it ever dim. And matter of fact, in Sunday school, I always heard this song, This Little Light of Mine, right? And it's kind of corny, it's Sunday school, whatever. But I never really grasped it until recently. Like, dude, you gotta be bright, so the people can't like ignore you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I would tell them.
And that's good, and the best advice that I would give myself that kind of correlates into this is to forgive.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
Forgive people. It will completely destroy your business, your relationships, if you're mustering and harboring things that happen to you, and that will put a block on things that could happen for you. But going back to that light thing, I think is very powerful as well, because you're a star and I'm a star. And what people don't understand is that my light can't subdue yours. Only darkness can, right?
Yep.
So it's better to shine together versus shine apart. And I think that is something that a lot of people don't do. What is the absolute hardest thing that you've had to go through in business? And
Let me add one thing first, real quick, because I don't think you need to forgive people if you never get offended. If you don't ever take things personally, you never get offended by people, and you love unconditionally, right? Forgiveness is not even something that ever enters into you because you don't need it. People don't talk about that, And so I always want to make sure that. And then the other thing about the stars shining bright, dude, if you're full of yourself, you're never empty. So it's okay to be full of yourself if you have an unconditional love and want to elevate people. So toughest thing, what was the question? Toughest thing in business?
Toughest thing in business that ever happened to you?
I think when I was identifying as a mortgage person, and that was my identity back in the day. And when we were doing 11 million or something, 11.5 million in revenue, and in a month it all came crumbling down. And I was identifying and putting that value on myself, right? Instead of me as a person, instead of the C-Rock individual, right? And when I realized that, I came into the kitchen one day and I had all the wrong people around me. I was chasing production, not core values, not alignment. It was just production. And the people were making me miserable, or I was allowing them to make me miserable. I'd come home miserable, impatient with my kids. And so one day I just broke down in my kitchen in front of my wife, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. The weight started like it was so heavy and dark. I just can't do this anymore. And I said, I'll never, ever be in this position again. And I'm never going to identify myself as what I do. It's going to be who I am.
Who you are, yes.
And then I'm going to do a lot of things, and there's not going to be any limit to what I do. And that was a turning point. That was probably in that 17, 18 range, late 17. And that changed everything. But it was a very difficult, dark time. 22 employees. See the owner of the company at the time? There was $1 million, give or take, that went somewhere else where instead of coming to us. And I just put a pool in my house. I was counting on the money for a pool and all this like travertine and nice backyard. And I ended up having to take a line of credit on the house on it to pay the contractors.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to have that money. And so that set us back a ways. But instead of going after and do anything court or anything, I just decided to use it and be so damn successful that it would just blow everything out of the water. And so, but it was a really dark time because I had 22 employees at that time. And I felt like I had them and their families on my shoulders. And I felt like I let them down. And so I ended up going 6 months, my partners and I, 6 months, minimum wage, just pulling minimum wage, nothing else out of the company to make sure our employees were paid so that we could rev up and get momentum and explode. And we did. We had a great 2020 and 2021. And yeah, so it was good.
Now I know that you're not necessarily transitioning, but you're doing a vertical with your podcast movement. Can you give us a little preview of that if you're comfortable?
Yeah, so I started podcasting back in 2019, and I leaned into it. I was doing 7 to 10 a week, my shows and other shows. I did over 820 some now, my show and other people's in the last 3 years. I started realizing I had something because I was keeping a network of all the shows that I've been on.
That's
all the people I met.
You said 800.
820 some in the last 3 years.
So that's like what? 250?
I did 350 some of my own show and over 420 some of like on other people's.
Wow, man.
And I just leaned into it because I knew, and by the way, I didn't say no to anybody. Like if it was their first show, if they were new, it didn't matter. I don't care what the genre was. I'd go on every show that somebody wanted to interview me because I was getting content. It was going Google search optimization every time they put it out. My name would be Mike Searock in the title and what I talk about. And the newer people, you go on their show, you got a fan for life. Like they love you, right? And so I just said yes to everybody, and I just stacked up this network. Podcast hosts are some of the most connected people on the planet. So I found that out. And I realized, you know what? I have something here like diamonds sitting right around me. I can help other people do the same. So we started People Building Podcast Agency, and it quickly became the #1 podcast agency in North America, jamming. Everybody's coming to us. We have celebrities, billionaires, and then people just on the come up and everywhere in between. And we're booking them on great shows. And it's just phenomenal. And now we're going to lean into helping real estate agents celebritize themselves through podcasting.
That's magnificent because you know what? This podcast, y'all, I'm going to tell you right now, when I first started, I was looking at all of the cameras, looking around, looking crazy. And one thing that I definitely will say is that it doesn't get any easier, but you just get more conditioned to getting on camera.
Oh, it gets easier. It gets easier. Yeah. You just got to keep doing more.
Yeah. You get the endurance after getting the reps in. This is kind of like working out, right?
Well, and the other thing is, like, people don't realize when you start a podcast and then when you start going on others consistently, your life changes. Your business is never the same. Your credibility goes up, your authority goes up, your confidence goes up, unlimited amount of content. There's so much you can do with it. And so when I realized that, the power of that, and for the return on investment, the ROI is like ridiculous compared to anything else.
It is.
And so, yeah, now we help other people do the same. Yeah. And
a fun fact too, did you guys know that Google owns YouTube? Bing. So if somebody's Googling you, and it's on YouTube, the keyword optimization is gonna go up anyway, specifically because of that. So that's a little chicken nugget fresh out of the grease on the Winning Real Estate podcast. So man, this has been a phenomenal podcast. I really appreciate you coming on here and talking.
Thanks, man.
Talking to me. What's next, man? Are we going? What is next for Searock?
Yeah, so we're gonna lean into the podcast agency. I'm bringing on some major players that know how to market, and it's going to explode. And I want to make it a $10 million company as quickly as possible, add some tech into it. And then I have a mergers and acquisitions company that we started, and it's also a business consultant and advisory company. We're going to be doing masterminds, events, and then buying companies. And so we started a club called the Waymore Club. And that's business owners and investors are coming together, building a community around that, of people that want to build wealth together through businesses. And so that's the thing that we're working on as well as a podcast agency.
And I'll share a personal story with you. So there I was. It was raining in Las Vegas. All right. And I'm all down and I'm walking through the hallway, right? I see Searock. I said, "What's up, Searock?" And then a certain individual was walking by, right? And I had been praying and praying and praying for the next step. Well, where am I going to go next? And that individual just so happened to be walking through the hallway, Jared, with his lovely wife. And you know what Searock did? He said, "Hey, this guy, Tony Glenn, you need to know him. He's a great guy." And it's little things like that. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to run with me. You didn't have to show up, but you did. And I'll tell you this, man, if you're on an intimate pursuit to help people, you never know what type of friendship or where that friendship's going to take you. So I wanted to personally say thank you for that.
Nah, man,
you didn't have to do it.
Nah, man, you didn't have to worry about that. You kidding me, man?
Do it, but I really appreciate that. Yeah. It means a lot.
Welcome.
And
but this goes to being a mission guy. Like, if you're on a mission, my mission's all people are unstoppable to living the life of their dreams. So when I have that mission in my head, it's not even a question to me. I don't have to like debate myself. Or should I? No. This is the person I want to help, and they're on a mission and I see that, bang. No, there's no thinking. And so it's just a mission that I've started, and it's not about me. So I appreciate you thanking me. But remember, my mission is bigger than my ego and pride. And I'm serving a mission that's bigger than all of us. And that's, I can't wait to see what comes of it, man. I'm excited for you.
Oh man, it's going to be crazy, man.
And all the people that you're going to impact, more importantly.
Yeah. It's going to be we're going to impact, because I think what I'm on an intimate pursuit to do is I'm going to continue to introduce myself until people are introducing me, because I know that our movement is to serve a big purpose, and that's to help military spouses and vets and any investor that's looking to get into real estate, because it's a very rough waters to navigate. And, we've been able to build the vertically integrated company for Envi vets. And if it wasn't for people like you guys are just as important as the veteran as well, because of the support is what takes us further. So I appreciate that. Now, quick question. How can people reach you?
Best thing to do, we're on Clubhouse all the time. You know that, right? So Mikey C. Rock there, and Instagram, Mikey C. Rock. You can find me very easily there. Or listen, Google search me. I made it. It's another thing, man. You got to be everywhere. Omnipresence, baby.
Yep.
So yeah, easy to find.
Outstanding, man. Well, this has been great. Thank you for joining us. And then you can reach me at anthony10k.com, where we help you win in real estate. And you can find me on Clubhouse at Tony Glenn II. And hey, let's get it, man. Have a great day.